BattleBots. One of the coolest shows ever made, where 100-kilo robots battle to the death for our entertainment. And one of the most badass robots to ever fight in the battle box has to be this, Deathroll. This monster of a vertical spinner has a reputation of hitting without quitting, and considering it's built by an Australian team, I'm quite the fan. So when Hexbug released their line of miniature remote-controlled BattleBots a few years ago, like this tiny beta with real working hammer, I thought my dream of owning a Mini Deathroll to call my own would finally come true. But alas, they never made one, and that's just not acceptable. So I made one myself. This miniature Deathroll was designed and built using some of the most advanced manufacturing technologies available, from its multi-jet fusion chassis to the weapon blade made from aerospace-grade titanium. And let me tell you, this little robot is no joke.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
If you're unfamiliar with combat robotics, let me give you an ultra-quick rundown. These remote control machines fight to the death in a specially designed arena, with 3 minutes to incapacitate their opponents through almost any means possible. You can smash, flip, crush, and hammer your way to victory, and should both robots be working after 3 minutes, the decision goes to the judges based on control, damage, and aggression. But let's be real, no one wants to win through a judge's decision. We want to win through all-out obliteration. There are rules, of course, to keep things fair and for the entertainment of the crowd. No projectiles, explosives, or radio jamming is permitted, and just like boxing, these robots compete in a strict weight class. Deathroll is a heavyweight combat robot, weighing in at 250 pounds or about 113 kilograms, and its vertical disc assembly alone weighs over 24 kilos. For my mini version, I want to have the same ferocity as the original, but in a much more compact package. I want it to look as cool as the original with that crocodile profile, the same gigantic disc, and ideally, a self-righting feature so it doesn't get stuck on its back. Oh, and it also has to weigh less than 150 grams to compete in the Australian antweight class. Yes, grams. It's a crazy challenge and I am here for it. These are the bits that have to fit into it. I've got 2 drive motors. Deathroll has 4 hub motors in reality, but there's no way of fitting that kind of thing within the weight limit. And to control it, I've got this tiny speed controller from BotBits and this even smaller receiver which receives commands from the transmitter. The weapon itself will be direct driven from this mystery brushless motor that I've had for years, and well, it feels pretty powerful, but I'm yet to actually test it. And everything is powered by this tiny lithium polymer battery. All of this on its own is already pretty complex and heavy, so the frame will need to be seriously lightweight if there's any weight left for a decent weapon. But how do you go about designing a mini clone of such a visually complex robot as Deathroll? Some sort of 3D reference would sure be handy. So anyway, here's the full production CAD of Deathroll. I deleted all the components and bodies I didn't need, leaving just the chassis and disc as a reference, and got to work reverse engineering, creating new bodies that matched the shape of the original but were able to accommodate the antweight electronics. It was an insane design challenge, but I eventually ended up with this. So I've got the design of this kick-ass mini Deathroll and it's time to make it. That's where this video's sponsor, PCBWay, comes in. PCBWay is well known for their PCB fabrication services, but were you aware they have a whole suite of manufacturing services available as well, from 3D printing to CNC machining, laser cutting, and even injection molding. You can have your entire product fabbed through PCBWay, and their service is incredibly easy to use. For this robot, I really wanted to try HP's MJF process, which stands for multi-jet fusion. It uses a PA12 nylon powder for incredibly strong and detailed parts that don't require support material. And for the weapon disc, I wanted to try something really special. Grade 5 titanium. Now, titanium isn't the hardest material in the world, but it is incredibly resilient and has a density roughly halfway between steel and aluminium, which made it the perfect material choice for this ridiculously huge weapon blade. All you need to do is upload your design in STL or STEP format, and then select what process you want, what material and grade, and then what finish you would prefer, and PCBWay's engineers will take a look at your model and let you know if it'll work or if any changes are required. And for example, Riley got back to me really quickly with some possible problem areas in my 3D prints that were below the recommended thickness for the MJF process, and they even provided screenshots. But I said, hey, it's okay, I accept the risky. And then, after a little while, they arrived. These parts look absolutely incredible. The MJF nylon has this amazing black, sleek look to it, and the parts weigh nothing, but they feel so strong and rigid, it's incredible. But these discs, wow, these discs, so they're titanium, grade 5 titanium, and they are just flawless. And it seems that PCBWay made 3 of them, but realistically I only need 1 spare. So, how would you like to win one of these incredible discs? Well, keep watching the video to the end to find out how. With all the bits here, it's time to start assembly, and it's fiddly work. First things first, the frame needed several threaded inserts to be heat set, and to do this I used Naomi Woo's new heat set insert tool, which is one seriously legit piece of kit. It uses V-rolls and stops to precisely position and control the heat set tool so you can sink the inserts down into place without making a mockery of them when they're all wonky or you damage the part. And I know it's niche, but I am just in love with this machine. Using it to heat set inserts precisely so they're not wonky or off center or they damage the part. Mwah, amazing. Unsurprisingly, the frame components from PCBWay fit together perfectly. You cannot get this level of precision off FDM printed nylon. There's no way. It warps, it shrinks. It's a real pain to use. These parts just right off the machine fit together perfectly and have the strength of that nylon. So if you need precise, strong parts, it's well worth trying out a service like this. Because the machine that makes this is hundreds of thousands of dollars, there's no way you'd own it yourself, but it makes perfect sense to use it as a service where the parts are actually very affordable and it lets you make incredible projects like this. But by far the hardest part to get right in this build is the electronics. You want to keep all the components as well protected as possible while still being connected by correct lengths of wire. But you also need to manipulate them into place without inducing wire fatigue and breaking things or impacts shaking things loose during combat. All I can say is it takes a steady hand and a lot of practice. But with some careful planning, I was able to shoehorn it all into the chassis. In future, I would probably just go with an all-in-one controller like the Malenki Nano that I used in my squishy robot Pancake, but I'm disorganized and didn't order a spare in time, and my current one looks like this, so yeah, my suffering is your entertainment, I guess. The drive motors are designed to simply secure in place with hot glue, old school but it works, and although I did design in a feature to support front wheels, weight was quickly becoming an issue in this little bot, so 2 rear wheels for now will have to do. The weapon motor and weapon assembly is the final piece of the puzzle, with the motor mounting into precisely sized bores in the frame uprights. Motor hub is on one side, and I installed a 3mm bearing on the other to support the shaft. Again, the precision of the MJF process is incredible. I didn't have to do any drilling or sanding to get these parts to fit together perfectly. The weapon discs, however, did need a tiny bit of tweaking, as I was a little bit too cautious on their internal diameter. They didn't quite fit over the motor bell, but that's nothing a Dremel and some pretty sparks can't fix. Talking about pretty, there is a property of titanium that I've always wanted to try out, and that is anodizing it using electricity. Titanium on its own has a slightly blue-grey look to it, which isn't half bad, but you can easily change this into a rainbow of incredible colors by simply running an electric current through the part. And the process of doing this, it turns out, is ridiculously easy. All you need is an electrolyte solution of some kind. I just used baking soda dissolved into water, some scrap titanium for the ground, and the piece you want to anodize connected to the positive terminal of any number of, in my case, 9-volt batteries, with each jump in voltage resulting in a different color due to an interference phenomenon of light reflecting off the oxide and the underlying titanium. At least that's the limit of how much I understand the process. It's very complicated. I'm not a scientist. Certain voltage equals certain color, and it's actually very repeatable. So I found that 3 9-volt batteries, which is about 27 volts, gave a really, really pretty purpley blue color that I absolutely love. And it takes just seconds for the oxide to form. So if you have some titanium lying around, definitely give this process a go. Just be aware that you need to clean all the dirt and grease and oils off the part first, or it'll show on the surface. I wasn't super careful doing my parts, but again, this is a combat robot. It's going to be smashed up, so doesn't really matter, does it? From here, all I had to do is literally epoxy the blade onto the motor and do the final assembly. And here it is, my homage to one of the coolest BattleBots ever made, Deathroll. Now, I'm planning to take this Mini Deathroll across the world to open source in San Francisco, but it'd be pretty unwise to do that without giving it a good test first. So I brought it to one of our local antweight competitions to see what this little thing is capable of. And here was the first spin-up test. Okay, well, I'm no longer the robot with the biggest reach anymore.
Oh my god.
Okay, it's scary sounding for sure, but that's not much of a test, is it? I wanted to give it a real shakedown test and see just what this weapon is capable of. So at the end of the event, I went up against one of the other builders' robots. James built this little beater that actually won the event, but it was pretty beaten up by the end of it. We decided to chuck the two robots in against each other and do a few hits. And this is how that went.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
So, that's insane. This robot hits harder than pretty much anything else in the category, but it comes at a price. When this machine is flipped upside down, it's stuck, and a stuck robot is a dead robot. Now, the real Deathroll actually has a solution for this. It has a self-riding arm that will flip it back onto its wheels when it gets stuck, and I did intend to do this. I actually bought this tiny micro servo with the intention of doing a similar arm to get this robot back on its wheels when it got flipped, but the weight just wasn't there. These robots, 150 grams is nothing, and it all gets eaten up, and I wanted to have some stylistic details on this robot, so there just isn't weight for an invertibility servo in there. But I do think I have an idea for a less elegant but very lightweight solution. Zip ties. Now, if I put a zip tie in a strategic location right here on the back, when it gets flipped, there should be just enough spring in that zip tie to let it get back on its wheels, especially if the weapon is able to kick over a couple of times and bounce it back. It's untested yet, but I think that will be a good solution. Also, something I did notice is the can got jammed into the side of the frame. That's why it couldn't spin up right at the end, but that's easily solved with a little bit more epoxy. And unfortunately, one of the little mounts where the screws are cracked. Now, this processed MJF nylon isn't as strong as injection molded nylon. It's a little bit more brittle, and it really did show, unfortunately, a weakness there. This is so thin. I did skeletonize this within an inch of its life to get it in the weight limit, so I will try reinforcing that with a little bit of epoxy to see how it goes, and I do have a spare frame that I did get done from PCBWay to make this at least able to survive a few rounds. But I cannot wait to bring this over to open source, and I'm also bringing the new version of my squishy robot, Pancake. Yes, I did rebuild it within the weight limit, and I actually competed at the last robot event, and it did really, really well. So if you'd like to see a full breakdown and build report and competition report for the new version of Pancake, you can find that over on the Makers Muse community, because I'm not going to be flooding this channel too much with robot combat content, but if you're hungry for more, you can join that community for just $5 a month. You get access to behind the scenes content, an awesome troubleshooting forum, and a lot more. So definitely check it out in the video description below. A big thanks to PCBWay for sponsoring this video here on Makers Muse, and a big thanks to them for making these incredible titanium weapon discs. And I did say you can win one of these. I have a spare that I will be giving away. All you have to do is comment below with the ultimate robot combat design you would make. What's your ultimate dream battle bot that would win the competition? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll choose my favorite to ship out this disc to start you off on your robot combat journey. And who knows, maybe I'll make a homage to your crazy idea in a future video. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you later. Bye.